Good morning, everyone. So lovely to see you all here today. First off, I want to start off by saying thank you to Dr. Roy and Supervisor Ellenberg for starting us off this morning. We're now ready to begin our first keynote session. And for those of you who may not know me, my name is Rania Belamish, and I am the Health Education Specialist here with PEI. And it is our pleasure to introduce our first speaker today, Dr. Melissa Franklin. Dr. Melissa Franklin is a public health leader, entrepreneur, and systems healer with more than 25 years of experience advancing organizational development, systems change, strategic communications, and engagement strategies across public health and public education sectors. Her healing-focused leadership is deeply informed by her own lived experiences with birth disparities, fueling her commitment to transforming systems with empathy, equity, and accountability. As Chief Executive Officer and founder of Growth Mindset Communications Consulting, Dr. Franklin has partnered with public agencies, philanthropic foundations, and education systems to design and launch equity-driven initiatives that center community voice and system change. She also serves as an MCAH Director for a large county, where she has launched several birth equity initiatives as well as programs focused on the most vulnerable of populations. Dr. Franklin holds a Doctor of Education in Organizational Change and Leadership from USC, an MBA, and a BA in Business from Loyola Marymount University. A mother, mentor, and longtime youth dance leader, Dr. Franklin endeavors to bring joy, justice, and healing to every space she leads. Come up. Welcome, Dr. Franklin.
Good morning. Thank you for that introduction. Put this down here. Thanks. Oh, just what incredible work y'all are doing. Oh my gosh. Just give a hand for yourselves, because I'm just so proud to be in this space and encouraged by the work. We need the entirety of our state to lean in to Black birth justice, the entirety of our country to lean in. And so it's just so encouraging to hear. Wonderful to be here today. Thank you, Shilpa, Siva, Camila, and team for your hospitality and support. Sharice Feldman, woot woot, for your open arms and your brilliant work. The County of Santa Clara Board of Supervisors, Health Department for your, as my daughter says, being locked in. Right, oh yeah. And then I was like, all that, thank you for that, for equity, justice, and righting wrongs. I'm a woot woot person, and so can I just get a woot woot real quick? Okay, because this will be participatory involvement today. Next slide. So we're gonna test out our Mentimeter. It's something, I'll be toggling back and forth to this. If Mentimeters annoy you, I'm sorry, don't participate. You don't have to participate, but please do. It helps us engage together. You'll be part of the keynote today. So please, and there's a test question, and if we can switch to the Mentimeter, and we can get to the first question. I guess I should. While they bring up the Mentimeter, you see the first question is very important and significant. You didn't go on a Mentimeter, I'm not going to tell you what it is. Right, so if you had to give a presentation, what are one of three options for delivering it? I know which one I would. It would be interpretive dance. Oh, I'd like to hear some. What were some of? So interpretive dance, singing every word, or miming. If you had to choose one way to deliver an inspirational speech, which would it be? And this is, I can't sing happy birthday well. So it'll be interpretive dance, and miming, depending on music availability. So please participate in the Menti. It helps me know that it's working, even if you shouted it out, if you could please. Oh, it's on the previous. If you could tap the join information, it should come up. There you go. Oh, we lost it. It's okay. Were you all able to get in? Oh, great, great. So if you could just click that, it'll help us as we advance the Menti. And we can go to the next slide here. So just a little bit of my background. I'm Los Angeles County, born and raised. You heard that I went to LMU, USC. I grew up in a household, I'm a Black person. I grew up in a household with many different cultures in my family, and so the holidays were filled with gumbo and tamales and pancit, which is like wonderful. I mean, like, come on. I mean, is that not a blessing? Right? Whoop, whoop. I am the mother of 2 girls, both my children. They're not twins, they were born 27 weeks, 5 days to the day, 3 years apart. I did all the right things. I went to my prenatal appointments. I had, at that time, an MBA, solid relationship, a home, great job, folic acid like it was going out of style, healthy weight, healthy person. And yet I had that outcome. I almost died in the birth of my second child. And so I carried that burden for many years, like I'm sure many Black women did, until I realized, it wasn't anything that I did, right? That it was an injustice of it. But it took many years later. It took the starting of this work that led me to that. You see pictures of my family, my parents. I grew up, as I mentioned, in different parts of LA. LA's large. It's like almost 100,000 births each year, 8,000 Black births at one point. Now we're at like 7,500, 6,500 Black births. Spent my formative years in Santa Clarita, which is a part of LA County, and we were literally like the only Black family in Santa Clarita. I was the only Black child in my school other than my siblings. In high school, I was the only child until my brother came. And so being the only or the few in an environment where there's many of others really fueled my observation of the treatment of individuals. And though in many ways, to some, I did not present Black, I acknowledged the privilege that comes with that. Also got to hear a lot of conversations about how folks talk about Black folks. And I went on to Loyola Marymount University, which I loved that school, but I was always one of the only Blacks. In my class, there were 23 Black students in our graduating class at Loyola. And so that really just framed how I saw systems work for folks, how I saw the treatment of individuals. And though there was a privilege that I had access to by how I appeared to some, it also meant that I was pretty much called every racial slur in the book, every ethnicity you could think of color, that I had experienced that living in the community that I lived in and going to the schools that I did. And so that really just prompted, my interests. I've always been a social activist, come from a social activist family. Went to USC. As I mentioned, my father served in Vietnam War, died at the age of 60. And again, I'm just surrounded by health disparities. Both my parents had cancer. All of my grandparents had cancer. They are from Louisiana, and so many of you may be familiar with Cancer Alley and prevalence of cancer in the South, in Louisiana in particular, New Orleans. And so, in a lot of ways, just saw a lot of death, dying, and illness as a child, but I also saw a lot of badassery. Can I say that? I mean, just like resilience and joy. And when I think about my childhood, I don't think about those things as informing sadness or a childhood that I rue, but just saw us being thriving and full of life and pressing through and leaning in for each other. I did not start in public health. I was in private industry. I was a upwardly mobile. Back then they called us yuppies. Anybody familiar with that old term? That's so weird. I worked for a global human resource consulting firm, upwardly rising, only to black level executive west of the Mississippi, leading great work. And then 9/11 happened and we lost almost 400 colleagues in the World Trade Center. And I was there 2 months to the day, and people I sat next to and worked alongside were gone in our sibling companies. And so that set me on a path of using my skills and experience to transform communities, to uplift, to heal. I left there and worked full-time at a church. And I have to say, if you work at a church, you can work anywhere. You can work anywhere. I saw just like abject humanity and struggle, a lot of death, a lot of illness, but I saw a lot of miracles and a lot of badassery, since I can say it now, and resilience and beauty, and that was it. That was what my work, my skills, my life was going to be committed to. And so with the twisting, winding roads, I wound up here, and so honored to be here and a part of this work, and also part of my journey. You see in the middle with the LA Dodgers hat, sorry. LA Dodgers hat. I had found out at a routine colonoscopy that my mitral valve needed to be repaired. And it was really unexpected. Like I said, I was always led a really healthy life, ate well. I was experiencing weird symptoms. This weight gain out of the blue, despite exercising and eating well, feeling tired a lot all of a sudden. And, it really just got chalked up to menopause. Like everything was I was blaming everything on menopause, right? And just feeling off for a number of years. And so when that came up, and it was found out that it was genetic in nature, I had the surgery. It was 1.5 years ago. I'm so glad to be here. I'm glad to be alive. Thank you. Thank you so much. My brother also had the surgery, more severe. My dad, actually, he died of a severe heart attack. And so I'm just really grateful to be alive. And a part of that process, that was corrected. And then I started feeling weird symptoms and difficulty breathing, my chest feeling tired, just things like that. And, went to get it diagnosed. So I had gone through this healing process. I'm like, oh gosh, what is going on? And, found out that a portion of my diaphragm was paralyzed, which is why I talk kind of like with this voice, was paralyzed. And so now that I know that issue, I've become the path to prepare for healing, right? So I'll be going to, I already started pulmonary therapy, right? It's designed to strengthen my rib cage and to get everything else working to work around the paralysis, right? And so when the paralysis is in a challenged state, when there's pressure on my system, I start to feel like I can't breathe, my chest gets tired, that I'm suffocating. And in a lot of ways, it reminds me of our work and movements, right? We've done the steps to heal, right? We've taken, changed policy, changed how we do funding, engaged with folks with lived expertise, and yet there's something that's missing, right? No, not that was all wrong or swept away, that it's gone, because we heard it in this supervisor's comments, right? We're not dismissing hope. We're just acknowledging the urgency that work continues need to be done. And so as we're doing that, it really made me think, oh, okay, like I was tired of the struggle. It's like, oh man, I just went through this big old surgery and now I'm here. Like I have to take these steps. So I needed to prepare my mind because I couldn't have that mindset that I'm tired of the struggle, right? That being informed my next steps. I also had to set therapy. Is it so I could barely make it? I could barely breathe each day? No, I believe I'm going to be healed, whole. Believe that. I'm going to take those steps with that. Thank you in mind. I had to transform my mind before doing that. I had to transform my relationships, my providers. I had to make sure that I could take the time off. I had to be clear with my family that my healing is not going to be a side hustle. And so I invite you, in terms of healing for Black folks in your county, that is not a side hustle. That is your main job. And then transforming actions. But all that has to take place before we get to the action. So I'm going to cover quite a few heuristics, try to get through most of the content today. There are themes, but they'll all fall into these areas. And to help us engage with them, I'm going to share another passion, which I have, which is looking at everyday lyrics of songs and aligning them with social justice concepts. It's annoying to my kids, but you guys get to enjoy it. So I'm going to get y'all to help me. Raise your hand if you consider yourself to be on the right side of the room, virtually and in person. So if you're on the right side of the room, I'm sorry, I'll say my right. Oh, you're right, right side of the room. You consider yourself on your right side of the room. Okay, so yeah, okay. Okay, raise your hand if you consider yourself to be on the left side of the room. And this is for you all folks online too. Okay, great. So I'm going to get to that in a moment if you go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, we're going to land on these 4 areas: transforming whys, minds, relationships, and actions. Next slide. Now we're going to go back to our Mentimeter, and we're going to have our first song. So I'm going to have you participate with me. The lyric is, it's good to be alive, but it's best to live. Right? So I'm going to ask the right side of the room, you're going to be, when I cue you, it's good to be alive. Left side, it's best to live. So it's good to be alive, but it's best to live. Oh, y'all dope. One more time. Woo woo. Thank you. So the Mentimeter is, will ask you these questions related to that. But the point is, survival is not success. For so often, we're going through this work, yes, we're addressing death and dying, disparate deaths and dying of Black folks. And I see it in the education sector too, a lot of the work on transforming Black student outcomes who remain the most, with least access to performance improvements in our state. Black children remain those most expelled, suspended, least graduating, right? But all the work is just to get to barely surviving, barely making it out of the system, and that is not the vision, y'all, right? So survival is not success. And so if we could turn to the Mentimeter, hopefully y'all still have access. Thank you. So if survival is not success, what should be success? If it's not survival, right? Survival may be a pathway to success. Oh, there we go. Menti.com, 6639-9748. Joy, happiness, love, self-actualization, peace, love, joy, peace, happiness, thriving, good health, hope, helping others, calmness. I see a theme, and well, we all know that the larger words are the themes. Thank you. Peace, joy, love, happiness. I want to say and soul for those. I'm sorry, Soul Train, those back in the day. It's hard. It's so hard not to say it. It's so hard. Oh, beautiful. Look at y'all. Contentment. Oh, I love that. Wellness. Thank you. Next Menti slide, if you could. So here's the question that we have to ask, like a real question. Is it possible to see Black birth disparity eliminated in your county, in your lifetime, in our lifetimes? And you can be real with this. This is important. Because there are days where I think I cross all of these feelings, right? I could start off with agree, and by middle of the day, I don't know. And a day, praying that my daughters see it, right? Thank y'all for being honest about that. Next mentee. Oh, it is. I'm impressed that because a lot of folks I talk to, they're in I don't know, disagree place. Agree is like our starting point, because if you're moving in this work, not looking for hints that change is afoot, right? Or places where maybe there's been a gap between intention and action, you'll miss it. And so we'll all be striving and exhausted and discouraged. And when there are policies that happen at the federal level that make us scared to keep going, we'll stop. Or some of us will stop, and then we start losing our solidarity and our collective impact. And so at least acknowledging where you're starting from is an important work, because then you have a sense, okay, in the room, as we're having conversations between sessions, as we're listening to the panel, if you're in the I don't know or disagree, what is it that you would need to see in order to see that change? Is it that racism is so prevalent and so embedded that it feels like it's this thing over here that we'll never address, that we're chasing down outcomes, right? We're chasing the impact of racism layered on with harm, layered on with policies. Or is it that, no, F that, right? We're going to continue to love on us, and then we're going to find a way, even through all of that, to make it happen, because we have agency. I have agency in terms of how I think, how I treat myself. I have agency with that. I have agency in terms of how I treat people around me in the work. I have agency in terms of serving the people in front of me. I can't get distracted by the federal policies. I can acknowledge them, fight, but I got to keep serving the people in front of me, and I got to find ways to help other people continue to serve. I got to make sure that this work isn't exhausting Black women who are leading it out, who don't get to go home, and it's something to address that work that I really care about, right? I can't do that. I have to find a way for those three areas, myself, each other, folks in front of me, for me to have an impact and keep leaning in with a mindset, a vision that change is indeed possible. And it's okay to have these moments where you disagree or don't know, because usually that's an external factor that you're responding to, right? But changing what we're looking at in terms of the outcome, love, joy, thriving, abundance. Okay, if I can aim toward that for Black folks, I'm thinking that infant mortality would be impacted, and that maternal mortality would be impacted. I don't want Black folks to just survive. I want them to thrive and have access to amazing, abundant life. And if we can work to set that as the vision, it's powerful and it's achievable, because then I can do that with myself, I can do that with my colleagues, my team, my organization. And then, now it's a benefit, me being a part of the system. Now it's not me feeling like the man. Now I'm feeling like we are inciting a revolution from the inside. Great question. Wonderful question. Next mentee. Okay, so what is Santa Clara County's birth equity yet? And that's the question I posited on a slide, and we don't have to go to the slide. Is it that we haven't accomplished a change in birth outcomes for Black folks? That, we all know there's much to do, or is it that we're just not there yet? Is it what hasn't been accomplished yet, is that our stopping point, or is it a future state? Right? What we haven't done yet, is that a stopping point, or a future state? For me, it's a future state. And what that future state looks like for Santa Clara County could be different if you're a hospital system, if you're a doula, if you're a community member, a parent, right? A midwife, program coordinator for Black Infant Health. What is the future state? What is the yet? Bold actions, not sure, momentum, fracture state, goal. Oh, these are good because they're a bit amorphous. And what you'll get today, like in the panel, and in what Candace will be sharing later, is really specifics. And for me, places of hope and grounding and breakthrough. And so again, this isn't to like posit, oh gosh, we ain't there yet, this is horrible. It's not that, it's more like, okay, what does our yet look like? How can I prepare my mind for this work today, but also leave this room going through the doorways and transformation happening between here and there. You know, the minute that you entered this room, you were transformed. There are people that you never met before, spaces you never been in, even maybe something you ate that you hadn't eaten before, like transformation happens. And so really what I'm inviting you to do is bring some intention to that transformation, your ability to influence your own transformed mindset, and then that replicating in the people that you're serving with, organizations you're serving in, and the system that you don't want to be a part of the man of. If we can go back to the PowerPoint slide. Thank you. So why is this important? Because systems produce what they're designed to produce and how they're designed to produce it, right? So if there were never any Black folks connected or in the county or building the system's not going to be designed for Black folks, right? And if there is an intentional thwarting of Black people that was and has been acceptable while the system is being designed, the system will do that. Next slide. So we all know these root causes was shared earlier today. It's not the behavior of the Black person, and we all can understand that, yes, it's good to go to prenatal appointments. Yes, it's good to be healthy. Yes, it's good to take certain steps in your life, but that is not the reason for the difference in the outcomes. And it is complicated. Oftentimes in our work or the news media will land on purely the interaction between provider and patient. And yes, that can be problematic, and that is a problem in many places, but it's not just that. We're talking about why we show up more vulnerable physically as pregnant folks, as Black people, and the causes of that, and how that gets hammered on, right? And it isn't just our history of being enslaved people and forced migration. That is definitely a start of it, but it's compounded and has been compounded generationally. And if my parents grew up in Jim Crow South in segregation, if I observed my dad being called the N-word and my being called the N-word and injustices, then it's not this far back thing that's happened, right? It's very present. And so you all have heard of all these things: implicit and overt bias, multi-system dysfunction. You know, our healthcare system in general hasn't necessarily been working great for anybody. Can I say that? Right, and I'm talking more, not so much about the people, but the system, how it works together, right? How money doesn't get out to the people or the communities, or even how insurance works or insurance access work, let alone what's happening in our neighborhoods in terms of redlining, and it's the vestiges of that, thwarting. You know, folks don't want to hear the word in some spaces, inequity, harm, inequity, racism, but can we talk about racial harm? Can we talk about how violent our society is in its treatment of Black folks very systematically? That if you look at any system, juvenile justice system, education, health, even beyond perinatal well-being, you see us at the bottom of the list, the top of the disparities. Well, I've got to say something, right? The anti-healing movement, that's anti-DEI. I feel like anti-DEI, you're not interested in healing folks being healed. Baked in racial harm. So if the outcomes are broken, the design is speaking to us, right? And similarly, as we continue to make improvements, how can we look at those places where they're contributing to us not getting to our yet? Next slide. We already know what works. We do. We know it works. Midwifery care, doula support, prenatal care, nutrition security, absence of racial harm, culturally congruent, empowering, quality physician care, group prenatal groups, BIH, housing security, guaranteed basic income, insurance access, maternal mental health. I mean, we can go on and on. We know it works, y'all. And you'll get detail today. You'll get some of the detail of how Black women think and feel about what works, what has been seen, what's been already programmatically invested in. Thankfully, thanks to a collective locking in, there is an intention to shift around what we already know works. And you'll hear about those details today. So as I mentioned, so why are we still here? Next slide. No, you can keep going. Next slide. There you go. So instead of asking why are we still here, again, it's more like, why aren't we, is it that we're not there yet? Right? Because why are we still here? Again, that's our stopping point. We here. That's it. And I'm sharing these things. I know they sound philosophical, like we can change how we think about this work. That's the first place of transformation in terms of collective action. And you don't have to go to Mentimeter now because we did that. Next slide. So shift the system and you shift the story. And I know y'all all know this already. I'm just trying to move this into a tangible place for us so that the system doesn't feel like this big old thing that we can't wrap our arms around. Next slide. The system is a lot of folks, a lot of things. There's the leader, that's you. There's your team. It was a collection of individuals with shared impact. Then there's a collection of teams with shared impact, that's organizations. And then there's a collection of organizations with shared impact. And now those impacted, right? So back in the day, community would be outside the system. But because of a lot of the work, y'all work, right? In terms of engaging community members in design of how we respond, engaging folks with lived experience and actually delivering the work and the response, now they're in the system too, right? And that could be for good or they could either be in the matrix, right? Or they could be in the real world, like advancing change and transforming systems from the inside. So I thought it was important to define the system. This is what I'm talking about. It's us. The system consists of human beings. What moves systems? Same thing that moves individuals and organizations, beliefs, relationships, decisions, actions. Together, these influence how systems respond to the need of communities. Bigness of systems can make us feel like they're immutable or impossible to wrangle. They're not. We're all in systems and we're all part of them. The beauty of your movement or work you all have done is that you blurred the walls between the system and the community. You're part of the system's response. And this is the most admirable elements of modern birth equity movements, is that wall being mushed. So as we're thinking about ourselves in the system and landing on the fact that we are indeed part of the system, like it or not, we can start shifting it, starting with what we can most have an impact on, which is ourselves. Next slide. So, okay, this is another lyric. It's another lyric. You could start with Shiggity if you want, for those who know the song. So this right side is check yourself. Left side is before you wreck yourself. Quoting Ice Cube. my South LA brother. Okay, so, all right, so right side. Oh, somebody had the timing so good. Okay, one more time. Okay, thank you. Chickadee, check yourself before you wreck yourself. So this is the next Menti, if we can go to the Mentimeter. So this is about really like us getting our minds right. And minds right to do the work, yes. Having the end goal of thriving, joy, abundance, peace. That's okay, yep. Can we just say that the team is doing an amazing job toggling between two? Yeah, like so good. So we're going to talk about vibe, right? Because there's the preparation I talked about, like having a mindset toward thriving, joy, peace. And then there's like our daily work of making sure our vibe is right and putting our vibe in check. Especially if you're a provider and you work with the public, this is something that's really important. So let's start with just like understanding how do you know when someone has a good vibe? Their energy, curiosity, relatable, smiles, safe, the feeling that they get you, charisma, can't be explained in words. That's a good point. Funny that that's there. In a focus group that I help facilitate, kind of at the beginning of LA County's work around Black birth justice, 110 Black birthing individuals. And we talk to Black women, people, about what makes them feel like they're trusted and supported in healthcare settings and in their communities. And the word that came up was vibe. It was just like, I mean, this was all across the county, multiple spas, different generations, different experiences with birthing. And so that was really interesting. And we're like, how do we deconstruct this? Like, how do we define vibe? But you just know it when it's said, right? What vibe is. Who organized that? All right. So themes, listening, calm, positivity, smiles, right? These all things convey like a vibe being right. Next Menti. Oh, go back one. Maybe I had another one in there. Before we go to that one, it's important to acknowledge the fact that not all vibe is good. Anybody know what a funky vibe? Like, oh, she got a funky vibe, right? It's like funky. That you can't even explain that, right? What funky vibe is, and that also came up when we talked about, well, what makes you feel like you can't trust a provider, that you can't connect with them, and bad vibe came up as a word. And then as leaders in this work, our vibe can be off sometimes, right? Right? It gets hard. You're in the system, you're cog and spoken it out. You're just cog and spoke. You're getting the production done, right? Or it's overwhelming, or you've had a lot of many moments of intense fellowship with your fellow movement makers, right? Or you're just exhausted. And so it's important to know when your vibe is off. One, so that you don't lose your soul in this work. That doesn't take you out of hopefulness, right? Or it doesn't take you out of believing that change is possible. And there are a lot of things, we're going to talk about some of the signs that your vibe is off. It's getting snappy with folks. Being afraid to ask questions. Or not wanting folks to ask questions. Being afraid to say what you believe is right? And that's when an organizational context influences your vibe, right? That there's a hammer or there's some kind of limitation to an alternative perspective, right? So now I'm not going to ask any question. I'm just going to get this work done, go home because I'm tired. Or you get in a room and would love to do a study on, a room filled with 400 people and see how many times when you say, hey, how's it going? Good, tired, right? Like that's the response, right? there being this like epidemic of exhaustion, right? That's vibe being off. And oftentimes it's easy to lose your soul, yourself, your health and well-being in this work if you enter into it without intention of how to protect it. So how do you heal your vibe? You have to define who you want to be in this work and be committed to it when the pressure, twists, and turns are, right? So oftentimes we just go, right? We think of leadership as characteristics, which is good, that's important. But we don't think about who we want to be as a leader. How do we want to interact with ourselves, with others in this work as an intention, as a reflection point, as something that we rest on. I have a manifesto for myself, leadership manifesto, and it's things in terms of how I respond to the world or what I'm committed to. They're not characteristics. And I find it really important because I'll reflect on my week, my day, or interaction, and think about, did I operate that way? But I wouldn't do that if I didn't have an intention. And if I didn't have intention and I didn't do that, I'm pretty sure I'd lose myself in this work, give up, be unhealthy. So the next question, here's your mini manifesto. Answering the question, I'm a leader who blank when being just gets hard. Have you ever set that intention? Because it does get hard. I haven't seen it not. Well, for me, it's never not been hard. Doubles down, gets nervous, reflects, doesn't give up, connects with others, locks in, rises up, steps up, reflects, digs in, resilient, takes a breath, gets creative, keeps going, fights, brings others in. Ooh. Slows down. Excellent. Takes a breath, thinks. This, again, like it sounds philosophical, a little bit mushy. My dissertation is around transformation in equity outcomes and individual collective behavior and how to achieve breakthroughs and what are the habits that leaders need collectively and individually in order to advance change. And metacognition, which is what this is like one of the key elements. So thinking about how you think and that having an intentionality, plus self-reflection is like a game changer in terms of being a leader, trying to move forward. Anything that is big, abstract, often comes with difficulty. And so being intentional and prepared about what you do when things get tough, for this to be not a self-reflection, but an intention that you will self-reflect on, changes things. Because then I'm ready. Like I know when something gets hard or I get a call from a lawyer asking me how many times I mention Black in a website, or the race and ethnicity of people that I've hired or served, right? I'm ready for it. Recalibrate. Or when I get exhausted, I can acknowledge it, check my body and understand what's happening. And for me, it's life and death. It's a health-related concern. How do I stop that? How do I know how to prepare to deal with that? Excellent. Thank you all. Next. You can go to actually the slide, and then we're going to skip that mentee since we talked about it. Also impressive. Again, I mentioned this, losing your voice, losing your boundaries, losing your center. These are ways to know when, like, big picture, your vibe is off. Next slide. Reclaiming your vibe, we're doing some of that. Intention, aspiration, reflection, self-regulation is paying attention to how your body responds and responding to the way your body is responding. Next slide. These are my manifesto points. I'm a leader who will treat each person with kindness, grace, and respect, even when I don't feel like it. It's like almost like I need to have that on the end. I'm a leader who believes that each person can contribute great value to the world and achieve positive impact. I'm a leader who each day reflects on how I treat and view people I interact with and the groups of people they represent. I'm a leader who learns about other people and types of people by not just hanging with whom I'm comfortable with, but learning about different types of cultures, lifestyles, asking questions, and staying humble about my own background and perspectives. I'm a leader who inspires others to achieve their dreams and lead the change they want to see in the world. And I'm a leader who is not afraid I am sorry and make amends when I mess up and how I treat or view others. And, there are days where I don't align with this well. If I don't, but if I don't reflect, I won't know that. And I'll just keep pushing through. And all of a sudden I'm looking back and Melissa is way over there. She's not here with me. I've gone left. Next slide. Okay, so this is the next song. I don't know if you guys know this song. So we're going to talk about transform relationships because that's an important part of the work we do. We're in a movement. We're in a movement, right? We're in a movement, right? And so that means togetherness. We're in teams. We're in different parts of the system. We're trying to move the system together. We're trying to, obtain a transformation together. So now this right side, when I move, you move, is your term, your words, and left side is just like that. Okay? Right side. Oh, so good. So good. Okay, I have to hear it one more time. Okay, one more time. All right. Shout out to Ludacris. Thank you. I don't know if you could tell I was a young adult in the 90s. Okay. All right, so I have another Mentimeter. If we can go to the Mentimeter. You can go to the next one. Okay, right. So you don't have to do this right now. I just wanted to get that up. So in order to transform relationships requires solidarity, unity, harmony. Solidarity is more than teamwork and is definitely not single-mindedness. We don't need better teamwork. We need solidarity because systems don't heal through coordination. They heal through commitment to each other. They heal through collective self-efficacy, which was one of those other pillars that came out in my dissertation studies as being absolutely necessary in transform work for equity. Collective self-efficacy is the belief that, okay, I can accomplish this, you can accomplish this, and we can do it together, and that there's value in us doing it together, right? It's all that is collective self-efficacy. So it's, more than just simple kind of individual self-efficacy. We've been, been trained to value teamwork, roles, outputs, efficiency, and that's good. But teamwork alone can keep harmful systems running on time, like this efficient running oppressive systems. Solidarity is what changes what the system produces. Teamwork organizes action, solidarity transforms belief, and a belief that ultimately determines whether a system produces harm or human flourishing. Teamwork helps us move together. Solidarity decides where and for whom we're willing to go. With solidarity, you can think about it in multiple levels. Solidarity with yourself, like are you aligned with your values and your intentions, your manifesto, so to speak. Solidarity with your team, organizations, community, system, others in the movement. It involves breaking boundaries. As I mentioned, modern birth equity has started to break down siloed systems. Good solidarity requires frequent interactions among the folks in the movement, right? Among members within a team, among folks within an organization, folks within the system, organizations within the system. And I love hearing that that's what Santa Clara County is endeavoring to accomplish with its equity plan and with the work groups and the work that BIH and PEI are doing. Self-maintenance, which means umbrages don't result in, as my grandmother used to say, torn draws. You ever heard of that term? That means permanent rifts in relationships, right? That, we're human beings and we're gonna have, like I said, moments of intense fellowship and things are gonna go wrong. We're not gonna treat each other the way the other person wants to be treated all the time. And that cannot result in permanent damage. There's gotta be a way of self-maintaining, of apologizing, of forgiveness, of grace. I have to say a game changer in my life was developing the ability to forgive. It was really hard, but I developed the ability to forgive and not hold on to resentments, which happens a lot in movements. It's like movements and boy band, girl bands, those two things fall apart when there isn't solidarity and forgiveness, right? And mastering that ability to apologize and for rifts not to result in permanent damage, or even for there to be a need for us to have chemistry to work together, or even like each other to work together. We're not, this problem is beyond whether or not you like me to do the work that we need to do. It's about being able to uplift each other while we're doing it. And that doesn't require vibing with each other. That's a different type of vibe. It doesn't require chemistry. If we're dependent on that, we are lost, right? Because people are just built different. They connect differently with folks. And so we can't afford that in our work. Having heterogeneity, diversity, even within your movement. Preventing generational silos. Cliques and other, micro marginalizing practices, right? If you look across your team, even if your team is doing great work, your team is folks live experience, if y'all the same, whatever, neighborhood, for us it's service planning area, neighborhood, generation, lifestyle, just because y'all are the same race, that's not heterogeneity, right? We need everyone in this work, especially if you're in a county where Black folks aren't the majority, right? Or in a small number of folks. So relationship vibe check, what is relationship shift you will commit to today? Self-awareness, teamwork, letting go of fear. Ooh, boldness, excellent. Thank you. We can go back to the slides as we begin to wrap up. Next one. So again, some things to check on for your team or for your movement. Solidarity vibe check. Are folks tired? Are folks fussing? Are they transacting? Are they ending relationships? Uplifting themselves alone? Talking about people instead of talking about the people? You spend more time talking about folks and problems you have with folks instead of talking about people serving communities. There's something's off, right? That needs to be addressed. Or folks duplicating work. Next slide. So we got to stop trying to fix people in these, when there's things happening that are off with our teams, and start redesigning conditions. How do you create a condition where everyone is celebrated, they have a valuable part to play, that their self-efficacy is built? Next slide. So reclaiming solidarity, I talked about that. Frequent communication, interdependence, self-repair, value centricity, heterogeneity, self-reflection, accountability, aligned contribution, and promoting joy and balance. Next slide. Okay, so let's begin. And you don't have to go to the Mentimeter yet. We're gonna go to the end, and then if there's time for more Mentimeter. But I'm gonna need you to do some lyrics. Okay, so again, my 90s coming back again. Okay, so if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So right side, if you stay ready. Left side, you ain't got to get ready. Okay, so now we got to put, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I told you I can't sing, it's okay. All right, so right side. Mm-hmm, good. Now, the song is a bit ratchet, but this is such wisdom, right? Preparing, being ready before you enter into the work of doing systems transformation, and not just kind of throwing yourself in it, transforming your mind, thinking about your relationships, right? Making sure that the context is right. You know, we want our teams to operate not in implicit bias or overt bias, yet we exhaust them. And we know that exhaustion, snap judgments, high stress situations, that's a petri dish for implicit bias, right? So that's a need for a condition change. I don't know if I can change the folks that may be doing that, but I know I can change the conditions to limit the opportunities for that, right? So thinking about your people challenges, that's, to me, it's data. It's data and actions. Okay, it's data, how you're responding to me or how you're behaving is data. So now I need to do a condition change, either requirements or training or making life less opportunities for those staff judgments. Next slide. So then we can get into action. So that's a lot of preparation right before action in terms of systems transformation. We know you'll hear all this today, you know, policy, promotion, people, practices. We know those are the areas of transformation, of action, of strategies. Before you get there, how are you thinking? What are you believing as being the outcomes? Because then I can look at my policy, promotion, people, and practice and see and go back to that one of the first few Mentimeters that we did. Is thriving here? Is thriving in the policy? Is there joy in our policies? And I mean, you know, big P policy laws and whatnot, but also little p policies, like your policies as an organization or as a team, your habits as a team. Promotion, how I talk. Am I talking joy, thriving in abundance as an outcome? Or am I talking barely making it, right? Barely surviving? People, am I treating people in a way that I'm interested in their joy, their thriving, right? On my team included, right? Because if my team has access to that, then guess what happens in terms of the people that they serve and how they think about and develop programs and how they interact with other parts of the system. And then, of course, practices. You know, we look at our practices as joy, thriving, peace, abundance, Black folks accessing great opportunities and they're reaching their dreams and goals. Is that in our practices? And you can take a very, very practical approach to that, right? By first defining what your yet is and seeing if that's present in these. Next slide. So how do we get there? I'm beginning to wrap up. Expectation shift, which is what we're talking about, the shift in your why. Mindset shift, work on ourselves. Relationship shift and system shift. Next slide. And 500. 500. There are 500 Black births in Santa Clara County each year. That's a pretty doable number of impacting with joy and thriving in abundance. What if we identify those things as our outcomes, right? And we made an intention to touch every 500, every one of the 500. What would that look like in terms of how you already have what to do. You already have the programs, right? You already have the practices and the people that are committed. What would it look like if we all came together and we decided this is what we were going to achieve? That makes it more doable. That's a lifetime number, right? That's within our lifetime, right? And it just gets expanded, right? As each year goes by and we continue to support those families, or you continue to support those families. Next slide. So I created a formula for system change because I had to think about it. It's like, that's kind of like it's a number. Like, how could I turn that like into something that I can remember as a formula? And it was, so it's C squared H to the LTOS plus S times N equals change in 500 Black births, right? And the C are two commitments. And this goes to the tax on equity in particular. It's important to me that you be able to say equity, that we be able to see the word equity in things. We can't do that. Can we acknowledge that this ain't right? Can we acknowledge that this ain't right? Right? This ain't right. That's what I need. That's actually what I need you to hear. I need to hear you acknowledge that this, I don't mean y'all, I know y'all know this ain't right, but I need to hear you acknowledge that this ain't right. And I need to hear you commit to do something about it. That's the other commitment is C, doing something about it. And then H is healing. Healing across leaders, that's yourself. teams, organization, and systems? Are you intentional about doing that? Are you doing a healing work in your team, in your unit? We all have that, like something's off in one parts of those. S are the strategies that we already know that work. And you'll, like I said, you'll hear more detail today about how they can work. And N is the unknown number of people within our systems that need to adopt C squared H to the LTOS plus S, right? So how many people collectively can you get to take on your yet within systems, right? That there is a finite number, right? That's our critical mass number. That's the movement number where we're all seeing change. So solving for N is actually what we're in the work of doing, like while we're doing the healing part and staying connected to our commitments. Next slide. So this breaks it down. E. Next slide. So the final Mentimeter, you don't have to do it right now. It is intention time, right? So if you can, after I share, complete that. It really is setting intention. Which of the healing areas, yourself, leader, team, others, are you willing to take on or adopt? Next slide. And one last, I wanted to end with a promise. And some of you have heard this, and then I'll leave on. Thank you for your grace of time. A friend of mine, Sabangale, died 5 years ago. It was a good friend of mine. And she did a post on Facebook, and in the post she acknowledged an ancestor who was enslaved. And I reached out to her when I saw the post because the slave owner had the same name of someone in my ancestry tree that we know assaulted a great-great-great-grandmother of mine. And so I reached out and I asked her, I love what she wrote. Can I share this? And made a commitment when she was ill to share this whenever I could. And she gave me permission to. And I'd like to share that as my ending. Nothing pretty to see, but everything beautiful to behold is what she called it. Here is my young and beautiful 3 times great-grandmother, Desiree Baptiste. I don't have a photo, just the notice you see below. Her children were my 2nd times great-grandfather, Felix, and my 2nd times great-aunt and uncles, Mary, Leonce, and Naciel, and Benjamin, and my 2nd time great-aunt, Adeline, who is also my mom's grandmother. My beloved Desiree was enslaved, and the children she bore were of the slave master, the one who placed her on the auction block along with her children, all under the age of 8. I wonder if she dreamt of a great-grandchild who would seek out her story and could give her a voice. I could never do it justice, but I have made it my duty to try, as she is now in my heart and in my very breath. I speak her name, her pain, but more so I speak her resilience. I pray her soul can see through my eyes the magnificence there is in this world. I love you, Desiree Baptiste. Your attributes were like the glorious lotus flower, blooming out of the dark, murky waters. The splendor of your soul brought oxygen to our world. Your life created the lives of thousands of descendants, from nuns to policemen to engineers to artists to, yes, even an opera singer. I say your name, beloved Desiree. The journey you had on this earth still proves that love always wins. Sincerely, your 3 times great-granddaughter, Sabangale. I just leave you with that. Thank you.
I know we are a little bit over time, but we will take few questions from the audience. If in-person audience, if you have question, you can just show your card and then we can collect it. Also reflection. And reflection. If anyone wants to reflect what you heard, what we shared, you can just raise your hand. And I will also ask my team over here if there are any Zoom questions in the Q&A.
So far, these questions were given before the presentation, but I think we have one question here that could work. Yeah. So this person said, why are community-based solutions like doulas and culturally aligned care proving effective yet still underfunded compared to hospital systems?
Would you like my perspective on that?
Yes.
Yeah. Because we are stuck on this crappy definition of evidence base and using it as an excuse to fund or not fund what we want to fund. I mean, yes, there's also like people who are making decisions about funding and how funding is structurally done. And, the question, oh, but what are your outcomes? Like that being repeatedly asked of work like that. But it's also because not defining joy, thriving, abundance as an acceptable intermediate outcome while we're waiting for the penultimate outcomes of, related to birth disparity. This is Melissa Franklin, only me, but I do believe that. I believe it is, it's lazy grant making and data oppression and defining what is evidence-based, and that being totally archaic. And I understand maybe they were created at a time where the intention was nice, but that's over, right? And so I do believe that we need to rethink what we call evidence. If it makes sense that someone walking alongside someone's pregnancy and birth experience in a way that they feel affirmed, heard, supported, advocated for, common sense has to be okay to accept as an outcome. And Black women are telling us and Black folks are telling us, this is good. This is good for me. This has made a change in how I experience birth. That should be good enough. Like the voices of Black folks should be good enough for that to be defined as fundable and evidenceable. So that's me. It's me saying it.